afternoon, everyone. This is Nithya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 1001. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, on all the podcast platforms. And fans, you can please tune in and ask questions on the Spreaker app. We are joined by a really special guest. His name is Randy Grimes. He's a former Baylor NFL center. He played for one team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, what a great career. And an inspiring story throughout his career. So we'll get to that. And obviously, he has a book out there. Go check out his book. It's called Off Center. I'm really excited for this interview. And Randy Grimes, thank you for joining the show. Like I said, fans, please tune in on the Spreaker app. You can ask questions to Randy. And first of all, how are you and your family doing today? We finally made this happen. And like I said, a great story and a great player.
Hey, I just appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, I had a great career. You know, I didn't play for very good teams, but I tell you what, I wouldn't go back and change anything because I made a lot of friends, had a great time. Tampa was a great place to raise the family, and you know it is what it is, and it got me to where I am now.
Yeah. So before we get started, I just want to pay respects. Obviously, we lost two people in the NFL world recently. The first one is Dwayne Haskins, Steelers quarterback, 24 years old, just devastating. So I just want to send my prayers to his family. And then yesterday we lost former Dallas Cowboy running backs coach Gary Brown and a former football player. What a great player he was too. And I just want to pay respects to his family too. Just devastating to lose two people in the span of like 2-3 days. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's horrible. And I pray for those families.
Yeah. So for you, I want you, like I said, inspiring story. And how about I'm going to give you the floor right now. Tell our fans about your inspiring story, what you've been through with mental health. Obviously, you're big into the mental health field too, and sports. And tell our fans about your story, man. It's really inspiring, and it gets to a lot of people too.
Well, I don't know how much time I have because it might take me a couple of days. No, you know, hey, I was born and raised right outside of Tyler, Texas. I mean, right outside of Dallas, Texas, in a town called Tyler. And, you know, football, everything was about Friday night lights and being between the bleachers and under the lights. You know, football wasn't religion, but it was a close second, you know. And football was just something I was always good at. You know, my family, we pretty much revolved around football. I had an older brother that was good. He went off and played at Southern Arkansas. But, you know, Baylor, I had the chance to go play anywhere in the Southwest Conference. Now it's the Big 12. But,
yeah.
You know, I chose Baylor over all those schools because I wanted to play for the coach Taft, Grant Taft. And, you know, I met my wife the very first day, our freshman year. We got married after our junior year. She was going to teach. I was going to coach. We were going to live that all-American dream. And, you know, the reason I bring all that up was because there was no history of substance abuse anywhere in my family. You know, there was nothing going on. There was nothing to indicate that I had to be careful or watch out for something. And, you know, again, at Baylor, football came easy for me. And I was lucky enough to be drafted in the second round. And that was that great draft draft of 1983 with all the great quarterbacks and great, you know, the first 5 rounds of that draft produced a lot of Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky to be drafted 43rd overall and in the second round by the Bucs. And the Bucs had just came off their 82 playoff season. So I was excited to be going to a playoff contender. Wow. And, you know, and I was also a kid that was from Deep East Texas. So I'd never even seen the ocean. So going to a playoff contender, playing for the great John McKay, playing with great people like Doug Williams and Leroy Selman, you know, that was you, and going to the seaside community of Tampa.
Yeah,
that was huge for my family. And well, we were starting our family, but it was huge for my career. And you know, me and my wife were just starting off our family.
Wow. Yeah. So for you, speaking of being from Texas, what was it like staying close to home when you went to Baylor for college? Obviously nearby there, and what was it like just playing for Baylor and then having your family there too?
You know, it was so cool. And you know, I was raised Southern Baptist, so going to Baylor, to a Baptist school, that made my mama proud. But I also had a sister that was already enrolled up there, and so that helped too. You know, having her right there and some help, especially early on my freshman year. But Man, when we got there, it was all about football. You know, it was from the beginning of two-a-days. As soon as I got moved into the dorm, it was all about big time championship college football, and that's pretty much all we focused on. I mean, yeah, you had to focus on your grades and getting to class and doing the right things. Coach Taft made sure of that, but you know, you were there to play college football and to win games.
Well, yeah, so we are live with former Baylor and Tampa Bay Buccaneers center Randy Grimes. We already have a fan question for you. One of our fans want to know what got you into playing center in football?
My high school coach,
Yeah,
and me getting too fat. You know, I was playing tight end and defensive end, and they switched me to center. And you know, you got to be a pretty good athlete to play center. There's a lot going on there, and not only that, but you got to be pretty smart too. That's the quarterback of the offensive line. So it was a good move for me. I only played center my senior year in high school, so I must have been doing something right to be recruited by so many different schools. And you know, I can remember to get on with my story and everything. I can remember getting to Tampa, and I had a locker right next to Leroy Selman my rookie year. And when I first got there in two-a-days training camp, whatever you want to call it, you know, I had a lot of these deep conversations with Leroy about what the game was like, how he did it, how he was able to be so great, be all pro every year, you know, how he was able to feed his family. And, you know, the first thing that I learned from Leroy is that football was no longer a game. Now it was a job. And, you know, I had never even thought about that. You know, yeah, somebody was going to pay me a game that I would gladly play for free. But, you know, hearing it from him and how serious he was about it, you know, I realized this is a whole new thing here. You know, football had been so fun before, you know, and it was something that we did because we loved it. Now it was a job. And then the second thing I learned from Leroy was that you do whatever you have to stay out on that field, because if you're not out there in your position, somebody else was going to be. Wow. And, you know, I played back in an era where we used to beat the hell out of each other all week long. You know, it was that Bear Bryant mentality of coaching where if you don't practice well, you're not going to play well, you know. And so coaches would literally beat the crap out of us all week. And hopefully there was enough left in the tank to play on Sunday, you know. And a lot of the injuries that happened to us happened during practice. You know, now it's so different. They hardly ever put on the pads now. Guys have longer careers. They have less injuries as a result of practice. But back then it was different. And, you know, I started, not that Leroy meant this, but eventually I interpreted doing whatever I had to stay out on the field was not reporting injuries, you know, not getting on the injury report, not hanging out in the training room, being worked on, you know, not waiting in line to see the doctor. I was not going to be that guy, because if you ever got that reputation, you were sure to have a short NFL career. So, you know, I justified throwing down handfuls of pain pills every day. Wow. And practicing through the injuries and playing games through the injuries. And then also throwing down handfuls of sleeping pills at night to get to sleep through the throbbing pain and injuries that I had. And, you know, I justified it so well. I looked at it more like a necessary evil. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was getting it from the team doctor, so it must be okay. Or I'm getting it from the team trainers, so it must be okay. You know, or I'm getting it from teammates, or I'm getting it out of an open drug safe that we have in the middle of the training room. So it must be okay, you know. Whatever it took to stay out on the field. And, you know, I looked at what was becoming a full-blown addiction as a necessary evil. And another way that I justified it was, you know, I wanted to be the best center that ever played the game. I wanted to play every snap of every practice and game. You know, I wanted to feed my family. I wanted that next big fat contract. I wanted to be all pro. You know, those are ways that I justified what was turning into a full-blown addiction. And it progressed to the point, you know, where the last 2 years of my career, I was playing entire NFL football games at starting center in blackout. You know, I was taking so much medication before the games that I was playing these games in complete blackouts. I would be home on the couch 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night after playing a 1 o'clock NFL game somewhere in the country. And I would start kind of coming around. And I'd be all beat up and scratched up and fingernails all torn up and dehydrated, everything you are after an NFL game.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember any of it. And I was a starting center. I was the quarterback of the offensive line. I was audible in blocking schemes, get guys going in the right directions, changing blocking schemes, listening to the quarterback for audibles and snap counts. I was doing all of that in a blackout, but that's what that necessary evil progressed to. And in the 8.5, nearly 9 years that this was going on, not once did anybody ever say, Randy, why are you slurring your words? Or Randy, why are you nodding off in meetings? Or Randy, why are you late to practice every day? Or why are you the last to leave the building every night and pills are missing out of the drug safe? Nobody ever asked me those questions because I was always playing good.
Wow. Yeah, that's a crazy, great, crazy story. And for you, obviously you went to rehab facility too to get better there. And how tough is it for you going through that, taking pills every day, and obviously still playing good? But how tough is that for you throughout your career with all that going on?
Well, I didn't think much of it. Of course, my wife and family didn't think much of it. I mean, we were practicing so hard during the day. Me coming home at night, collapsing on the couch or in bed was not a red flag for her, And of course, I was willing to do whatever I had to stay out on the field. Life, they define addiction by anything that makes your life unmanageable. My life wasn't unmanageable at the time. I was just playing games in a blackout. I was doing the necessary evil. I never expected to take that, though, into my private life. And, I had 5 head coaches in 10 years. I had 6 different position coaches in 10 years. I probably had 10 different quarterbacks and 3 different general managers. We were a revolving door of players, coaches, front office people. And it seems like the only consistent thing of the 80s and early 90s was Randy at center. I seemed to survive every coaching change, but that last coach I had, I remember one day after the 92 season, and we played our last game, and we, back then you'd come in after your last game on a Monday, after a Sunday game, you'd pack up your locker, you'd watch the film from the day before, you'd have an exit meeting with your coach, and you'd pretty much be gone until minicamp started up again in the spring. Now it's a lot different. It's more of a year-round job, but I can remember that last coach of mine walking by me as I was standing at my locker and putting his hand on my shoulder and not even slowing down enough to look me in the eye. It was Coach Sam Wyche. And all he said was, Randy, we won't be needing you here anymore. And he just kept on walking. And I remember thinking, wow, that's how it ends. All the blood, sweat, and tears that I've left on football fields all over this country since 4th grade. And that's how it ends, with a coach not even slowing down and being man enough to look me in the eye and saying that I'm cut. And, I just raked everything out of my locker into a black trash bag and walked out the back door. And Randy Grimes, the football player, didn't exist anymore. Wow. And the reason I talk about that is because I already had this raging necessary evil going on. And now you throw in the fact that I don't have a uniform to put on anymore. I don't have a playbook to look at. I don't have an itinerary. My whole identity was wrapped up in that playbook, in that uniform. And I struggled for a long time trying to transition out of football, out of being at Randy Grimes, the football player. And that fed my addiction, that the injuries just kept getting worse. The tolerance to the medication kept getting higher and needed more and more pills. And the fact that I didn't have that self-esteem that came along with being Randy Grimes, the football player, or that identity, was just throwing gasoline on an already raging dumpster fire. And, the next 20 plus years, I struggled. Wow. I struggled. I mean, I had some great jobs, don't get me wrong. And, great cars, houses, all that stuff. But, I lost all of that because of the pill addiction. And it wasn't until September 22nd of 2009 that I finally put my hand up and asked for help. And there were a series of bottoms that spring and summer that finally made me do that. And, it was why I didn't do it earlier, all pride, ego, but mostly guilt and shame.
Oh,
and the fact that back then the NFL didn't have anything for former players. They didn't have anything for former players in any area.
yeah.
So the death of my teammate Tom McHale, I played right next to him for many years, and he was doing the same thing I was doing, self-medicating the injuries he got while he played for the Bucs. And one morning he just didn't wake up. My daughter wouldn't let me see my first grandchild because I wasn't fit to be around her new baby. I had a series of seizures as a result of withdrawal. So I was having all kinds of health concerns. And also my wife felt like she had to step back out of the picture, because she felt like she was enabling and loving me to death. And so that was the real bottoms that I had in that spring and summer of 2009 that finally made me put up my hand and ask for help.
Wow. Crazy.
After I caused a ton of destruction,
Wow. That's really, really crazy. And for you, we have a fan question here. This is really interesting. They want to know, did you ever think to yourself throughout your career why these players and coaches didn't ask you those questions?
Yeah, you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was playing good. I was keeping my position. I was grading out high. Pro Bowl alternates, all that stuff. Everything was going really good. And yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like addiction now. When we suspect things are going on with somebody, do we really want to have that uncomfortable conversation with them? And of course, I'm not like that. I'm being what I do. I'll confront them right away. But a lot of people aren't comfortable having that conversation. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, now all we can say is now you're working hard. You never gave up. Now you're doing big things in your career. Obviously, you have your book, and now you're helping out other people in the mental health field. And you have an inspiring family too, by the way. So.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, they're the real heroes of my story. They're the ones that never gave up on me. I gave up on myself through many of those years, but they never did. So they're the real heroes, and they work with me now. That's the great thing about this book is that my family had a platform in it. My children did, my wife did, even my mom. And it was a healing process for all of us. Even though I've been sober almost 13 years now, there's still some stuff that's probably hanging on out there with all of them. And this book was a real healing process for all of us, and I'm real proud of the way it turned out.
Yeah. So speaking of Coach Sam Wyche, the late Sam Wyche, just devastating to hear what happened to him. And so tell our fans, whoever didn't know about him, what did he bring as a football coach to your team and to the players?
Well, and like I said, I had 5 different head coaches, of course, playing for John McKay, and him being the one drafted me. He was a legend. I still remember that cigar-stained voice calling me on the telephone. Back in '83, the drafts were a little different than they are now. They're a big production now, but back then it was just me and my wife sitting by a telephone in a 1-bedroom efficiency on the campus of Baylor. And hearing that voice, we were so excited, man. And of course, after him, Lehman Bennett came in for a couple of years, and then Ray Perkins came in for 4 years. And that's where that real 3-a-days Bear Bryant, mentality started up. And then Richard Williamson for a year. But then, Sam was coming off of a Super Bowl team. He was a Super Bowl coach. And of course, Sam brought a lot of his Bengals with him when he came down there, which was, we were always 2 or 3 players short anyway. So as a coach, I probably would have done the same thing. But, I wasn't with him long enough to really form a relationship other than being a starter for him. And it's too bad that it didn't work out. I like Sam Wyche. Everybody likes Sam Wyche. Got a great reputation. And the cool thing, I guess what I was getting at, the cool thing was just seeing all the different aspects of all those different coaches, because all of them were successful to some degree at some point. And to see the different things that they felt like made them successful was kind of cool.
Well, yeah, one of our fans wanted to know who was the toughest defensive player that you had to go against back in the day?
Oh my God, there were so many of them. Joe Klecko, Michael Carter,
Wow.
Randy White, Too Tall, everybody off that Bears front. Hampton and Fridge and McMichael. Uh, all those great players back then. Jim Burt at the Giants. Just so many great players. There was net Jerry Ball at the Viking. There was never, in Detroit, there was never a Sunday off. Let me put it like that. Every week you were playing against a great player, and that was back in the day when they could slap you upside the head, like Randy White would do,
Yeah.
or Michael Carter. He had those two arms taped up like clubs, and they were just such great players, great athletes, and you really had to bring your A game every week.
So being from Texas, I'm just curious, did you grow up watching the Cowboys? Or
Oh yeah, I was a huge Cowboy fan.
nice.
Matter of fact, my first start, my rookie year, was at left guard, a position I had never played before, and I got the word that I was going to start during pregame, and I had to start against Randy White, and I had all my friends there from my hometown, which was very close. I had all my college friends there and all my family, and you know what? I obviously I didn't win a lot of battles that day, but I grew up a lot that day, and that was early my rookie year, and starting against him and getting my ass kicked a few times by him. I grew up a lot that day. In that situation, you either grow up or you go home.
Yeah. So for you, I want to go back to the Baylor days. You were part of the 1980 Southwest Conference team, and Mike Singletary was in that team too. And you played with a lot of great talent. Not only him, but there was other great NFL talent. So take us back to that team. How special was that team in 1980?
Well, and going against Singletary every day in practice, maybe the center that I was. Mike Singletary broke 4 helmets in his career, and 2 of them were on me at Baylor. So yeah, our 79 team was a great team that we went off and beat Clemson out in the Peach Bowl, and then having that great team in 80 and we got crushed by Alabama in the Cotton Bowl, but we had a great team. That was a great year. We only lost 1 game, and that was like some crazy. Who was that? It's like not San Diego State, but I don't know. It was some crazy team that just snuck in there and beat us at our home field too. But yeah, going against Singletary all the time, and then I played against him every year, twice a year with the black and blue division. But yeah, Van McElroy, Walter Abercrombie, Frank Pollard, Ronnie Lee. There were so many great people that came off that team and went on to have great careers in the NFL, and that's why we were such a good team then.
Another fan question. They want to know, how important is it to be the center? Like you said, you're the quarterback of that position, and obviously you're the key to the quarterback too. Whenever he calls a play or when he calls a snap, you're gonna give the ball to him. So one of our fans want to know, how tough is that position and how you have to be on point pretty much every snap.
Every play, and they say you build a team from the middle out. Even baseball, you've got to have a good center fielder. You got to have a good second and short. You got to have a great pitcher and a good catcher.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same in football too. You've got to have a great running back. You got to have a great quarterback. You got to have a great center, a great nose guard or middle linebacker. A great free safety, and and then you build out from there. But I liked that responsibility. I liked being able to change blocking schemes and declare strengths and getting guys going in the right direction. I liked being the one that other guys would come to, if they didn't understand a play, or if they, if they got banged in the head and forgot, which happened a lot. You would take a lot of blows out there and you couldn't remember what you were supposed to be doing. So getting those guys going again, and it wears off after a few plays, and you're back with it. But I like the responsibility. I like knowing what everybody else on the offensive line was doing. I like the challenge of having to snap the ball and then block. I liked the relationship that it afforded me with the quarterback.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pluses, and when when you've played center your whole life, all through college against some of the greatest players in the world, it's pretty much all you ever want to do.
Yeah, so now it's rare. Speaking of spending time with one team, now it's a rare thing in the NFL. Most players do not spend their career with one team. And for you, what was it like spending your whole career with Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 10 years?
Well, to me, I thought it was awesome. Little did I know, when we went on strike in '87 and missed those 7 games, the guys are reaping the benefits of now, which was free agency.
Yeah.
And, it was an honor to be able to stay with a team that long back then. Now guys will leave at the drop of a hat for more money, but we didn't have that option, and I'm proud that they do now. I'm proud that what we stood for and what we sacrificed back in '87 is paying off. But man, is it really paying off, And it was nice to be at the start of something big like that. But I'm glad I was in, even though my best record was 6-10.
Yeah.
Even though we never had any great teams and we were always 2 or 3 players short of being a winner, even though there was no consistency, I wouldn't go back and trade anything because, man, I played with some great guys. I made some great relationships in Tampa that are still here today. And it was a great place to raise my family. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Matter of fact, I still live here. I'm in St. Petersburg, which is right outside of Tampa, and I wouldn't trade anything.
Yeah, so another fan question for you. They want to know, what was it like working with the legend Mike Ditka with your book?
Oh, he was awesome. And, I got to say, he was such an advocate for former players, and he's always cared so much about his players. And he's really been an advocate for me and my story and what I've been through and for Pro Athletes in Recovery, my nonprofit. So I'm grateful to him for what he stands for and how he's helped not only me, but a lot of other players. And his organization, Gridiron Greats, they've helped a lot of guys financially with their mental health issues, some substance abuse issues, whatever it was. Maybe it was a family member who needed help. And Coach Ditka has been right there for them, for all of us.
Yeah, so for you, like you said, you spend you play with 5 different quarterbacks throughout your career, and I want to get to 3: Jack Thompson, obviously Doug Williams, Washington.
Throwing Samoan.
Yeah, Doug Williams, Washington legend also, and also you played with Vinny Testaverde late in your career. So tell us about those 3 quarterbacks, and what was it like playing with all 3 of them?
Well, and Williams left right before my rookie year. So I had him for mini camps right after I got drafted, and just for a second of training camp, and then he was off to Washington. But yeah, I had the throwing Samoan Jack Thompson. I had Jerry Goldstein come through there. If you remember right, I had Steve Young come through for a year, and that was so much fun playing with that guy. That was right after he left LA, the team out there, and had a great year with him. And then Steve DeBerg came in, and DeBerg was the best in the huddle. He has so much talent, but he was so funny too, and he always kept things relaxed out there. And of course, Benny was drafted, our first round pick, and I got to play with Benny the last 4 years. And Benny was a great athlete, and he also was pretty confident in the huddle. And that's the kind of things you want to come back to as a player, to a quarterback that's in charge. That's kind of what Brady brings to the Bucs now. Is that in charge and that we're never out of it mentality. So. I learned something from all those different quarterbacks. They all brought something different to the huddle, and it was a pleasure to play for all of them.
Man, I forgot about Steve Young being with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So speaking of Steve Young, a great quarterback, obviously a great player, now a great analyst. So for you, how easy was it for you guys on the offensive line and seeing him go about his business, and whenever he threw the ball, it seems like it comes out like a perfect spiral. So
well, blocking for Steve Young though is impossible because he's always running around trying to make things happen. He's never where he's supposed to be, or he's never where we think he is. I wished I had an eye on the back of my head so I knew where he was all the time. Because when he was supposed to be 7 yards deep in the pocket, he was there. He was outside running around trying to make something happen. But you got to give him credit for being an athlete, for being a winner, a guy who's always trying to make something big happen. And he was a great athlete, and just a pleasure to play for. I wished I'd had him longer because he went off and had a great career. Seems like everybody that was a quarterback for us went off and had better careers somewhere else.
That's good. Like for example, Doug Williams.
Like Doug Williams, right.
Yeah. So we have another fan question for you. They want to know some of your best moments as a Baylor and Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
Well, of course, on the football field, the Cotton Bowl was huge, and the Peach Bowl, and the relationships that I made just playing in Baylor, and being close enough that my parents could drive to and watch every game, and watch a lot of the practices too. That was huge. Of course, meeting my wife and all the stuff that happened off field are great memories. But and even at Tampa, just like I said, I was a kid from deep East Texas who had never seen the ocean. So being around palm trees and the beach and the water, that was such a new life for me and so exciting. And I had all my children while we were out here, so that was exciting. But like I said, it was the different personalities that I was able to play with, and the great memories and friendships that last even today. And unfortunately, we've lost a lot of those guys, and I'm getting at that stage in my life where that's getting more common than I want it to. But I love this community, always have. I love to work in it here now, and all the friends that still live here.
And basically, throughout your career, you got to stay in warm weather. So, what was it like? What was that like for you, just being in warm weather?
That's the only thing that saved my life, man. Anytime I get in cold weather, every injury I've ever had comes back. But no, I've been grateful to be down here, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because I still have those same feelings about palm trees and sand and water. I love to be around it.
Yeah. So for you, I want to ask. So obviously, throughout your career, you played the center, but you obviously played other positions before the NFL. I want to go back to like how important is it for an athlete to have that one coach, or especially if I always say family comes first when it comes to athletes, but you always have that one coach who believed in you from day one. And how important is it to have that one coach that helped you change your position to center, and that believed in you that you could play center? How important is that for an athlete to have?
Well, I think it's everything. But you bring up a good point that I want to talk about. It's something that's going on right now, and parents seem to always want to force a young athlete to pick a sport. Back when I was coming through high school, we ran track, we played basketball, we played baseball. I loved baseball. I wished I'd have been better at baseball. And we played football. We were involved in everything, and not just even at the junior high level now. They kind of force kids that have talent to pick a sport, and then they'll get on a travel team and just focus on that. But I like to think that a lot of the skills that we pick up and the things that makes us great athletes, we pick up by playing other sports. And so I had the opportunity to do that, and I would have loved to play baseball at Baylor. There was a couple guys who were able to do that, but even those coaches from those other sports were influential. But my high school coach was, he was that one that moved me. He was the one that stuck with me. Coach Taft always believed in me. He gave me a chance. But I like to think that I also worked for that opportunity, and nothing was given to me. But football, like I said, football came easy for me. And it seems like I was always around the right people at the right time, doing the right thing, football related. So that's a great question, because those guys are all very influential, at all the levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have another fan question for you. They want to know, what is your pregame routine before game day?
Oh, I was one of those OCD guys, so I had to get to the locker room early. I took my time. Most of the offensive linemen were like that. We all got there as a group. we'd get there 2 or 3 hours before the rest of the team would, because everything was so meticulous. You know, we'd tape our jerseys to our pads so there wasn't any loose cloth anywhere. You know, we would tape up, we would lay around and laugh and tell jokes. You know, we'd listen to music. We had already eaten our pregame meal, which was, you know, 4 hours before the game. So we had already had our pregame meal. And so that was that camaraderie that I miss so much. You know, people ask me all the time what I miss most about football, and it's not the game. I miss that locker room time, that camaraderie with the other guys. And, you know, most of the offensive linemen were like that, you know, just real meticulous about how they put their pads on. You know, did they put their left shoe on first or their right shoe, you know? It was that kind of stuff that went on, because, you know, everything was focused on having a great game and being relaxed and knowing your playbook and being prepared for any situation that happened out there on the field. And that usually changed every week, because you had a new defense, a new athlete, and a new scheme that they were changing for you. So pre-games themselves were exhausting.
Yeah, so on our show, we like to give shout outs to the wives or the husbands of the athletes, because they're like the quarterback of the family throughout your guys' career. So how grateful is for you to have a wife from day one, to be behind your back after what you've gone through, and then continuing to never give up, continue to work hard. And what's it like for your wife to be behind your back from day one?
Well, it's the biggest piece of the whole puzzle. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, she was there from the start. She was there back when I was just going to be a coach, you know, before I was even drafted. She was the one that survived my addiction. You know, she's the one that raised our 2 kids through my addiction, because even though I was there, I wasn't really there. You know what I mean? And you know, she's the one that kept working even when I was in rehab. You know, she's the one that supported me and never gave up. So, I mean, that's and the cool thing is now we get to work together, you know, that it's almost like God was preparing us back then for the work that we do now, because I'm able to get indoors that maybe other people couldn't, just because I was a former professional athlete. And then her, you know, being married and surviving the addiction of a former professional athlete gets her indoors. And so, you know, we're grateful for the opportunity that we get to do now, but we're more grateful for the fact that we get to do it together. And I wouldn't have made it without her.
Wow. Yeah, you're the things you're doing. Your business right now is, it's basically a family business. And speaking of a family business, Randy Grimes Off Center, obviously the book you have, and you guys you're a motivational speaker. You speak at these events, and what's it like? What's it been like for you after your football career, finally finding something and being being a motivational speaker and motivating other people in life?
Well, it was definitely redefining myself, you know, reinventing myself, something that I never thought I'd have to do. And here it was, that's something that I needed to do.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there was a lot of other guys out there just like me who were suffering in silence, you know, guys that I'd played with and against. And for whatever reason, like I said, pride, ego, guilt, shame, wouldn't put their hand up and ask for help. So when I started Pro Athletes in Recovery, I teamed up with the Player Care Foundation at the NFL, and we started going out and telling our story. And I don't know if you remember me saying, but back when I came into treatment, there was no resources out there for former athletes. Well, now there was, through the Player Care Foundation. And as soon as I started telling my story, guys started coming out of the woodwork, and there was hands going up across the country. And I'm talking about guys who were as broken as I was, guys that had lost everything. Wow. And I was able to help hundreds, as I still am able to help hundreds and hundreds of former players, but not just in football, but MLB got involved, you know, the NBA, the NHL, pretty much every sport you can think of, from MMA to jockeys, you know, every sport that has an organization that supports their former players, I work with. And that's been the blessing throughout all this, you know, is that I'm able to stay connected to athletes, and that's my biggest passion, you know, is to be around my brothers.
Yeah. So speaking of other sports, obviously now now a lot of athletes are speaking openly about their mental health issues or what they're going through. Back in the day, they would not do that, but now they're starting to speak up. Like, for example, Kevin Love from the Cavaliers, he spoke about it. Ben Simmons, now with the Nets, he spoke about it. So what's it like seeing athletes now being more confident, speaking about their stories? If like back in the day they would not, but now they are.
Yeah, and that helps a lot as far as tearing down the stigma that keeps people from raising their hand. It keeps families from asking for help because, there's such guilt and shame associated with addiction and mental health issues. But now there's more, like you said, there's more people recovering out loud. Simone Biles, Darren Waller,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some great names. And people are, it's kind of like what my message is that it's okay to not be okay. And people are realizing that. Families are realizing that. And they're reaching out. They're asking for help. They're having that uncomfortable conversation that I talked about earlier. And I love it, man. I've been trying to get people to recover out loud for years, just so this would happen. And the stigma is continuing to be torn down. And I'm so proud of everybody that has come out and talked about their issues because, man, this affects everybody. This is addiction and mental health issues is the great equalizer. It brings us all to the same place and the same consequences. So I'm just so grateful everybody's talking about this.
Yeah, Simone Biles, amazing story for her to be able to come back in the Olympics after what she'd been through. That's an amazing story, and obviously Darren Waller. You can go even his teammate Max Crosby did this. It was
Yeah,
the same thing.
And there was already a few guys out there like Hollywood Henderson. There was a few guys that even came before me, and I'm grateful for those guys. Basketball player at the old Houston Rockets.
Who?
Anyway, there was a few athletes that were already out there doing it. So I'm grateful for those that kind of led the way.
What position did he play for the Rockets?
He was a point guard, I think. Lucas.
Oh, okay.
John Lucas.
Oh,
he was already doing that. So
yeah. So we have another fan question for you. They want to know where their book. They're speaking about your book, Off Center. They want to know where they can find it on the website.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. Just look under Off Center or Randy Grimes. Or also you can go to a landing page called offcenterthebook.com and it'll take you right to where you need to go to order the book. But it's available on paperback. It's available on Kindle version right now. And man, I hope everybody gets a copy, and because I'd really like to read the journey. And that's what it is. It's a real journey. And there's something in there for everybody. I told my story in a very unique way and through the eyes of other people at some point. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. A lot of people, the reviews have been awesome. Sales have been awesome. And, I'm like I said, for my first book, I'm just so proud of how it came out. It really turned out good.
And someone else wants to know, have you considered starting your own podcast?
No, I think we talked about that earlier. I'd hate to be responsible for getting guests every week. That would drive me insane.
Yeah. So now, what do you like? So what do you like about your former teams? Let's speak about your former teams now. Baylor. What do you like about their team? And obviously Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl recently, and Tom Brady's back after 40 days of retirement. He decided to come back. He missed the game already, but what do you like about Baylor and Tampa Bay Buccaneers going in the future?
Well, of course, I love everything about Baylor, and Coach Aranda has come back in and really straightened things out. After we lost Coach Prowse and all that went down at Baylor, we went through a long dry spell. But I'm grateful to Coach Aranda and even Matt, at the Panthers, who left after last year. He turned us around too. So, Baylor's doing good. If you look at Baylor, man, we're winning and everything. We didn't win basketball this year, but we came dang close. But we've been competitively high in pretty much every sport, baseball, even the equestrian sports. So Baylor's doing really good for a small Baptist school. We're doing awesome. And of course the Bucs, when Brady came in, I didn't know if he still had enough left in the tank.
Yeah.
But I did know that he would bring that air of confidence to the huddle that a young team needs. And that's exactly what he did. But he also had a lot left in the tank too, obviously. So, between him and Gronk and, they've got that championship culture now. They know how to win. They know what it takes to win. They know the work involved with it. They know how they got to stay healthy. And that's all because of Brady. He brought that, Coach Aaron's had a lot to do with that. Coach Bowles has a lot to do with that. So, it's fun to watch them do well. And yeah, I'm jealous. There's a little jealousy going on there, but they're a great team, and I'm still proud to be associated as a former Buck.
You how often do you go back to the games?
I go to 3 or 4 a year probably, and of course I go to as many practices as I can. COVID kind of eliminated a lot of that now, but hopefully that'll be back on track this coming year.
Wow.
And looks like we're going to get the group back together too, and that's even better. You got to get Gronk back in here.
It's a Tom Brady effect.
That's right. That's right.
Like, to be able to coming from the New England Patriots, playing in Tampa, to be able to win the Super Bowl the first year is remarkable, because a lot of people thought there was no chemistry. I mean, they had everything down. Obviously, they went through a lot of ups and downs throughout the season, but for them to stay on tack, stay locked in, Bruce Arians having them playing well towards the end and winning that Super Bowl, that's a remarkable story right there. And Tom Brady, man, wherever he goes, man, he makes the team better itself.
He's a winner. He's a winner, and it, I hate to give Belichick all the credit up there, but obviously it wasn't him. It was a matter of getting the right guys together. But Brady had a lot to do with that. You cannot deny that guy. Yeah, it takes a team, and it takes people being healthy, and it takes the right players. But when it comes down to it, you got to have a leader, and not only in the huddle, but in the locker room too. So
were you surprised when Bruce Arians retired? But now, actually not retired, he's moved up to the front office role. And then Todd Bowles, obviously a great coach, and now he's taking over.
Yeah, no, I'm not real surprised. I know Coach Aaron's had some health issues before. He still kind of takes it easy during practice. He's in a golf cart most of the time. Maybe this was best for him and his family. I mean, what else does he have to prove? Kind of like Brady. What else do you have to prove now that you've reached the pinnacle? What do you have? That's why I'm so appreciative for Tom to come back, because he doesn't have anything else to prove. Got a hot wife. He's the best actor ever. Made a ton of money. He's building a huge house in Miami. What else does he have? How many Super Bowl rings? 6, 7?
7.
Seven. It's insane what that guy's accomplished.
And he has
at his age too.
And he has a house in Costa Rica too.
Does he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's I think that's a vacation spot too, I think. So.
I wish I had a house in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I have the hot wife though.
Yeah, you
have the 7 rings and the house in Costa Rica.
You and your wife should invest in a house in Costa Rica.
You're right. You're going to have to be a co-investor though. Okay.
Yeah, I'll help you out. I got you on that one. Okay. Actually, I can help you out with that, since my parents have a house down there. I can help you out with that.
Yeah, just let me come live in that garage, okay?
Yeah. So before we get to the last few things, we'll take one more fan question. They want to know, what's it been like for you just to share your stories on podcasts like these?
It's been healing, and hopefully it's been informative, and like I said, hopefully I'm getting the message out that it's okay to not be okay, but you got to raise your hand and ask for help. There's resources and there's hope out there, but you got to ask for help. So it's been good for me. This is the kind of stuff that keeps me sober every day. And because, it's like that old saying, you got to give it away in order to keep it. So like I said, that's why I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about it. and just kind of share the message. And if anybody's out there struggling, reach out for somebody and ask for help, or get in touch with me. I'm on every social media platform. You can find me. My website is proathletesinrecovery.org. You can go to offcenterthebook.com and find the book. I'm at White Sands Treatment Center. That's where my athlete program is here in Tampa, Florida. And if you can't find me, you're not trying very hard.
Yeah. All right. We'll take one more fan question. Something just popped up. One of our fans want to know, which offensive lineman do you like to watch now?
Oh, I like Ryan Jensen at the Bucks, the center. I like to watch him. I always watch the center anyway. The greatest offensive lineman I ever saw play was Dwight Stevenson. And he just happened to be a center too at Alabama and Miami. So I always watch the center. I always watch, like I said, from the middle of the line out. And it's always good to see a good left tackle in a battle too, with all those fast defensive ends. But I always watch the center, and I think Ryan's one of the better, if not the best one right now.
Wow. Yeah, so the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now the coach for Grambling State University. We're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. It's so horrible out there what we're seeing with human trafficking. We're trying to stop that with this foundation. So we're going to send you the foundation to you and your wife so you can go check it out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Well, thank you for what you do and all the hard work that you put into your occupation, and for saving so many lives. And, we've got a long way to go with mental health and substance abuse issues, but we're trying to chip away at that every day. So the main thing is I'm just so grateful for what they do and what they have to go through every day, because especially treating knuckleheads like me,
Yeah, so there it is. That wraps up episode 1001 with former Baylor, Tampa Bay Buccaneers center, Randy Grimes. Man, what a great story, inspiring story. You can find his book, Off Center. Obviously, he does big things off the field, motivational speaker. And, man, he helps out other athletes, other former pro athletes. Like I said, Randy, thank you for joining the show. Your story is inspiring. Your family is really inspiring, too. And thank you to all our fans for tuning in and asking great questions to Randy too. And we would love to have you back on the show one day so you can meet the full team. But man, keep up the great work. And if you guys need any help, we're in there too. And thank you again, and stay safe.
Thanks for this opportunity, buddy. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.